Yeah, Hollow. What's up, dudes? So this video was requested a lot in the comments by a lot of people. It's a HM10 Blade Dancer PVE build guide. So I'm gonna go into pretty great detail on each skill, why I choose each skill over other skills, and how it all works together and stuff. And just a warning, I guess, in advance, this build is pretty unorthodox in that I use a lot of skills or make a lot of different choices in the build that most Blade Dancers don't make. And I think a lot of people will probably just see the build and say it's bad, but I mean, I think if you give it a try, you'll realize it's actually really good. And I mean, you can see it in action. I'll have a link to the playlist where I duo all the level 50 Silver Frost dungeons. You can see it works, it does good damage, you can stay alive with it, and yeah, just give it a shot. Alright, so getting right into the build here, starting down at the bottom of the list where this first point might trigger some people to leave the video, but anyway, so yeah, first I spec into wind focus, not electric. This just goes really well with this build for a couple of reasons. Some of the later skills that I'll show are dependent on it, and just overall wind focus makes your build a lot more balanced, and you have a lot more freedom. You're not restricted to needing draw stance to do damage. You can do damage all the time, good damage, and it makes for a build where you're able to avoid damage and do damage all the time, as long as you're playing well. You know, you're not stuck waiting for draw stance to animation cancel to do damage, and in which case, like while you're in draw stance, your other abilities are restricted in terms of which abilities you can use to avoid damage, right? This is just a lot more free-flowing and natural, I guess. And then for the V, I go on the left side. It gives you the iframes and the heal to dodge things. This is just the best choice in this case because obviously we're not going to go for Storm Cleave because we don't use the lightning focus, and this wouldn't give us the electric surge, so that would be useless. And the middle tree is the daze. That's for PvP mostly. Only in very rare cases, you know, when you need a daze for PvE for whatever reason, like the boss mechanic requires you to daze it, then you might spec this, right? Otherwise, like the vast majority of the time, you're gonna go down the left side for the dodge. Now another odd choice, or choice that isn't usually made by most Blade Dancers, is for lightning draw, I go down the right side into the Hollow Moon. And so the reason for this is, so the left side gives you bonus damage to knockdown target, the middle bonus damage to a stun target, and the boss isn't going to be knocked down or stunned when you use this. Like most of the time when you use this, it's just going to be on the boss, not CC'd at all, and you're going to use it to get into draw stance and start doing damage, right? And so that has little effect in PvE. They're more for PvP and Tower of Infinity. The good thing about this one, though, is it does give you that AoE that goes on the ground and does a little bit of extra damage, but the boss can move out of that and gimp your damage that way. And also, this is still more damage anyway for the following reasons. So this lets you use lightning draw twice. So for one thing, if you have any other weapon than the legendary weapon, if you have any other weapons before that, True Scorpio, Awakened Scorpio, whatever, they give you like 20% bonus damage to your lightning draw. So if you use lightning draw twice, that's 20% bonus damage 2 times. So that's a lot of bonus damage. Now, even if you don't have one of those bonus weapons, like me, I have the legendary, I still use it because what it does is it gives you, every time you use lightning draw, it gives you an electric focus. So not only is, without the bonus from the weapon, 2 lightning draws is more damage than a lightning draw, and the AoE the boss can move out of anyway, but also it makes your anti-cancel really smooth because it gives you a lightning focus, which gives you the ability to use your lightning flash for the animation cancel. And I think in my videos and stuff, most people probably didn't even notice I was using this lightning draw because you can slip the other lightning draw in there super smoothly and just make it part of the cancel. And like this. So you see, like every time, I always have lightning flash ready to use as part of my anti-cancel, right? I'm never stuck there like flickering a couple times trying to get electric focus stack from a crit because I built them up by using 2 lightning draws at the start, right? Okay, so next, X. Now this is a skill that got updated on the last patch, which just happened. So what I've always spec'd into is the left side for the iframe, basically, to dodge things. And it gives you a little bit of heal, but that's pretty irrelevant. This is for PvP. It dazes. And knocks in the air. That's not PvE at all. Now these are the 2 new ones. You can experiment with them. I have. Don't like them, really. This one just basically readies rolling Typhoon, which is nice, but it's just overkill on ways to get rolling Typhoon. If I spec that, it's just not necessary. And this is just bad. It'll put you in draw stance, which sounds nice, and it'll electrocute the enemy, meaning you have the surge, so you can anti-cancel, but it's only for 1 second. So you literally just get 1 lightning flash out of this. It's not that big of a deal, not that significant, I guess. But, I mean, these are really new skills. These just came out. I've barely had time to try them out. But so far what I can say is I still think that this side's good, best. Okay, now another thing that probably nobody else does is on my Z I spec down the left side. Now, okay, so first of all, I don't have Hong Moon Z, and probably most people don't. I haven't tried them, because I don't have them. When I do, then maybe my decision will change. We'll see. I'd have to try. But if you're only up to here and you can only get these ones, I can guarantee you that this is the best one. And I'll explain why right now. So, thing is, okay, first of all, this, nobody uses that and nobody uses this. Those are just bad. What everyone uses is this one. And the reason is because they read it and poor translation leads them to think that this is going to give them lots of damage. They see it's like, oh, it does lightning damage, increases crit by 50%. 50%, that's a lot, right? Now, thing is that translation's awful, and you see, oh, let's see. So my crit is 60.67%, right? I use red Z, not that. I use red Z, and my crit is 69%. So my crit went up by 9%. So if I spec this, I get 6 seconds of plus 9% crit. So that means if in that 6 seconds I attacked 100 times, I get 9 extra crits. Now obviously I'm not going to attack 100 times in 6 seconds, I'll attack more like 10 times. And if I attack 10 times in 6 seconds, then I get less than 1 extra crit. So that most of the time I won't even get 1 extra crit. Sometimes I will, right? Let's just call it 1 crit for lulz. Now, compare that to this. If I spec this, it's going to block everything for, like, it's going to block 5 things. So this basically makes me immune for the duration, for the 5 or 6 seconds, right? And so the amount of damage that you can gain out of, like, a well-timed Guardian Tempest from the extra attacks that you'll get, because you can sit there, you can have this up and sit there and anti-cancel through boss attacks. The boss is going to be hitting you and it doesn't matter. You don't have to dodge them because you have this shield up and you can just keep getting in extra attacks as long as you timed that Z well or whatever, right? The amount of damage you can get from a well-timed 5 resist Z from extra attacks is going to be so much more than less than 1 extra crit that you'll get from the red Z, right? Even if you got 1 extra attack in from this, from the fact that you used this, it would be more damage than the red Z. Because 1 extra attack is more damage than less than 1 extra crit, right? Because that extra attack can crit as well. Anyway, so next, Phantom Grip. Go down the right side for PVE. This is just obvious. It's going to give your party the most damage on that boss because it buffs them when they hit it. They get the focus and the crit chance. Now for this, I go on the right side. unless you need a knockdown for some reason, like unless I need a knockdown for some boss mechanic, I need to knock it down, nobody else can do it, then I'll go and I'll spec my knockdown reluctantly. Because I like this one, it gives you a lot more damage, right? It does damage itself, but it also recovers focus, a lot of focus. So that equates to damage. I mean, especially when you're in wind stance, and Tsundere takes so much focus, and you drop this, and you just have infinite focus basically for a while. Next one, spec down the middle on this into multi-slash. Again, unless maybe you needed a stun for some boss mechanics, then you might spec this. Vast majority of the time, I'm down the middle, because this one is going to give you so much more damage by far than these. So what it does, first of all, it's a high damage skill. It's your most damaging skill. It does a lot of damage, especially if all the procs of it crit. It's like insane damage. But also, the use of it restores 4 focus. It takes no focus to use. And it readies Rolling Typhoon, which restores 6 focus. So if you had 0 focus and from spamming Tsundere or whatever, and you use this, it's going to do tons of damage. It's going to ready Rolling Typhoon, and you'll be at full focus, spamming Tsundere again, and whatever, right? So, and it has a short cooldown, lots of damage, and as far as I know, legendary soul shields, which come later, actually buff. For the Blade Dancer specific legendary soul shield will actually buff the damage of this skill and lower the cooldown even, I think. So this is a really nice skill. Then for this, your Soaring Falcon, I go down the left side. It's going to give you focus, regen, which is really nice. I mean, you're not going to go down this side because it's just a knockdown. It's really not that useful for PVE. But this one, that's like, you know, you're hitting the boss and then you SS to dodge something. You can like throw your 1 and get back in there, and you know you have focus or whatever, right? It gives you that buff, 10 seconds of focus, right? Next, your escape. You always want 1 point in it for PvE, so it allows you to escape from knockdown, stuns, dazes, unconscious. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in them and just get wrecked by mobs and bosses and stuff. You don't need more than 1 point, because these are all coming into play for PvP. They're not relevant in PvE. It's just the 1. And now for the spin, it's another thing that like I do really differently from most Blade Dancers. Most Blade Dancers go on the left side, you get the defense buff, 400% defense, movement speed, you get a shield, you put 1 more point into it, a little shield, and then you can get team shields. I don't have these unlocked because I don't use this side, but you can shield your team a bit. Now, thinking selfishly, basically, just for your own use, this side, way better. If you're thinking about your team, then yeah, it's good. If your team can't dodge stuff, you want to help them dodge stuff. But I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of there's Hongwon blocks, Summoner, everyone has these team shields, and I don't know, call me selfish, but this side is better for personal use. And the reason being, so this side gives you defense, you increase your defense by 400%, so you're going to take less damage from whatever hits you during the time you're spinning. Now this is a parry, so when you use it and you parry something, you're going to take 0 damage. 0 damage is less than less damage. So, and it recovers focus. And so as long as you're good enough, playing well enough, and you time, you know, your parry spin well enough, this is going to be better than this, because it's going to make you take 0 damage instead of some damage. And also, these are completely unnecessary for PvE. They're just for PvP, so you only need to use this 2 skill points, as opposed to having to go down to 3 to get this nice shield or whatever, right? Or this stuff, you know? It's 2 skill points instead of 3 to 5 skill points, which you can use for other things. And it's a lot more fun to use as well. It's more fun to time things to avoid the damage instead of just mindlessly kind of spinning. Now this one is simply here because I'm Hongwon 11 and I have a lot of skill points. If you're not Hongwon 11, you don't have as many skill points, and you're going to cut something, this would be a very good choice. So the only reason I have this in here is it's Blitzblade. It's not for PvE at all. You don't use it in PvE ever. You use it for PvP. But what can happen is you can use it accidentally in PvE because your draw stands anti-canceling or whatever, and the boss uses some kind of block move, and so it'll automatically make you use this when you press F. And so I spec 1 point into it so that when that happens, it only costs 1 focus instead of 3. So it's not a necessary skill point, but it's just a luxury because I'm Hong 111, so I use it. Lightning Flash down the right side to get your, just gives you the ability to anti-cancel. It gives you Lightning Flash. And the third point isn't necessary because it makes it so you do extra damage to a stunned enemy. That's PvP. That's a wasted skill point in PvE, right? This is another luxury coming from the fact that I have a lot of skill points because I'm Hong 111. Something else you would cut if you didn't have as many. This is just like, so Blade Dancers, Blade Masters, lots of classes really, they can sometimes knock the boss in the air by accident using Take Flight, because you know the boss gets stunned, you weren't expecting it, you're trying to anti-cancel or something, and then you use Take Flight and you knock them in the air, and that screws up your party DPS and knocks Blade Dancers out of draw stance and stuff. You know, it's very annoying. So since I have the skill points, I just spec 2 points in it down the right side, and what this does is makes it so if I were to accidentally use it, it doesn't knock the boss in the air. It just does like a nuke damage instead, and it doesn't knock them up. So if I make that mistake, it's not such a mistake. It's fine. Right? Rolling Typhoon, it's kind of obvious. 2 points in it to make it do tons of damage. It's a big part of the build DPS. When you're in wind stance or basic stance, a lot of your damage comes from Rolling Typhoon. Lightning Strike, I go down the left side. The middle is the stun, that's for PvP, clearly. These two sides are for PvE, basically. Now, this one just sucks. This, what it does is, gives you the ability to parry in draw stance, and you'll stay in draw stance. So if the boss attacks or whatever, you can use this and you'll parry the attack. You won't take any damage from it, and you'll remain in draw stance. It sounds really nice, it's cool, but it's fun to use, because it only has a 0.5 second time, so you gotta time it really well, right? Just like your parry spin that I use, right? But it doesn't do any damage at all. So, as opposed to this side, which does lots of damage, and can also actually be used defensively, because the boss is attacking in front of them, say, and you use this, you'll go behind them, and you'll hit them for a lot of damage. And you can use it 3 times, so you can potentially dodge three things and do a lot of damage, because you can use it 3 times. And you can fit it in really nicely with your anti-cancel. It also gives an electric focus, which enables you to use Lightning Flash. So, smooths out your anti-cancel, gives you damage, right? So this just does so much. And this just does one thing, which isn't really necessary, because with this build you have a lot of ways to avoid damage, and would just be overkill. Now this is a new thing. I mean, the skill isn't new, it's just the right mouse button while you're grabbing something. But they recently, in the last patch, added this, so you could spec into it. Now if you go down the left side, when you use it, it'll decrease the cooldown of Whirling Scourge by 18 seconds. That would be useless, especially for this build, because we don't use Whirling Scourge. Nobody really does. And unless maybe they have the Hong Moon, and maybe it's really good in the Hong Moon Z, I don't know, right? But what I use is down the right side. So what it does is, when you use it, you'll drop the enemy that you're holding, and it'll put you in draw stance, and it'll give you like the electric surge, so you can anti-cancel for 6 seconds. So you want to use it at the end of the grab, so you don't just drop the boss in the middle of your grab and your team doesn't get to take advantage of your grab. Use it at the end, because it'll make you end the grab. It'll put you in draw stance, and you'll have anti-cancel going. So it's like another way to get into draw stance and start doing damage other than lightning draw, because obviously lightning draw, has a 36-second cooldown, and there's a lot of time when it's not up. And here's another way to get into draw stance. So it just makes like the dual storm cleave and the electric focus that much more unnecessary for me. Next, Tsundere. So your right mouse button, go down the middle. It's just the most damage for PvE. The right side is for PvP and Tower of Infinity, so when they're dazed or knocked down, you'll get a guaranteed crit and it'll heal you and stuff, but it's PvE, they're not going to be dazed or knocked down, so the middle is just the most damage. And the left is also PvP, it's like defense penetration and stuff, not relevant for PvE. Flicker, left side, PvE, right side, PvP. Right side, crit when they're stunned, boss isn't going to be stunned, so the left side is faster, gives you more attacks, so it's more damage. This is another luxury point due to Hong 111. It's really unnecessary. All it does is make this skill do a little more damage, when it doesn't do much damage in the first place. It's just the skill you use while you're grabbing on left mouse. Just shoots the sword into the top of their head. Yeah, just a little bit of extra damage. Your left click breeze down the middle tree for PVE and PvP, but it's just the most damage. It gives you attack speed, so you attack faster, you do more damage, and the middle Hongmoon skill here is really, really nice, because what happens is when you crit using it, it readies Sunder, so you can use Sunder right away. So you don't need to like use E or like Q to make Sunder fast to use it. You just crit and you can start using it right away. Right. So that's really useful. And then we're just back to Sunder, which I already explained. That's just up here because of my weapon. So yeah, that's about it for the PvE build. Like I said, it's a little unorthodox, and a lot of things in here that most blade dancers don't use or think is bad even, but you know, just give it a try and you'll probably see that it's really good, because it is really good, honestly. And again, if you want to see it in action, you can check out the playlist I'll link here with all the dungeons, like all the level 50 dungeons. Me and my friend duoed them, and I used this build. And I'll have the link to the build again in the description, so you can see it all laid out, as opposed to having to watch me to explain everything over and over again if you wanted to see the build. So anyway, that's it for this video. Like and sub if you liked and feel like subbing, and I'll talk to you later, dudes.